This video is brought to you by Grand Gamers Guild. Woof! So it's been a while. This is because, despite what some people on the internet might have you believe, viruses exist, and when you're walking through huge rooms full of ambulatory virus bags in nerd t-shirts, you might end up taking a faceplant into a cloud of sick. Now, I know I look like the peak of physical fitness, but even on the train back from Essen, I could feel the con crud begin to consume my frame, and by the time I got into bed, well, I was a snotty mess. Still, the immune system is a wonderful thing, and now I have returned to the Heracles you see before you, and on reflection, I have to say that Essen Spiel 2023 was one of the best in years, and will live long in the memory. And this video will tell you why. Alright, it's true. I am at that age where talk of logistics causes stirrings where talk of logistics shouldn't cause stirrings. But even I got tired of the grousing about the new hall layouts at this year's show. There's only so much you can go on about booth placement before you start to doubt if this is real life or just some terrible virtual reality game being played by a sadist. Still, it was a topic of conversation before the show, and I thought it was a fabulous success. This year, they arranged the halls by game weight rather than just rolling the dice as they had done in previous years, and it made perfect sense. You could make your home in the hall that catered most to your predilections as a gamer, and, as I'm a connoisseur of these things, I made my home in Hall 3 where the gamers' games were. Hall 3 was simply fantastic. It meant you could do the bulk of your shopping in one hall and set up base camp there. Then you could make little excursions out to the other halls for a snoop around. I particularly loved the RPG hall with its raft of independent publishers and its feeling of camaraderie. This kind of logistical shift made incredible sense to me beforehand, and it proved to be fantastic. New ownership of anything beloved is a cause for concern. But Spielwarenmesse showed this year that not only did they have a respect for what Essen was, but are willing to make changes to improve a brilliant experience. Also top marks to the Game Brewers booth with their wonderful Belgian beers. Top notch. This is a fairly obvious one, but the density of sound people per square inch cannot be understated. This is the thing with being really into something. It's not just games, but any hobby that consumes you. You can stand out a bit in the real world, unless it's sports statistics. Any kind of grand enthusiasm for something is considered a bit weird. A lot of people in your orbit will be confused that you could be into something so much when there's, well, loads of Netflix to be watched. Essen, though. Essen is rammed to the rafters with people just as obsessed as you, people just as enthusiastic as you about this weird little hobby. It's just so damned energising to be surrounded by tens of thousands of people that feel exactly as you do about these collections of ideas wrought in wood, cardboard and plastic. Over the weekend, you just have so many brilliant conversations, so many anecdotes swapped and so many debates had over minutiae. It is a dream for the kind of meticulous minds that love board games. Also, if you're like me and your game group is pretty stable, it gives you a chance to branch out and play with new people, make new friends and develop relationships with people all over the world. I have people who I consider friends who I only see at Essen, and I wouldn't see otherwise. It's a hoary old cliche to say, but this hobby is about the people. But Essen really drives this home. Whether it be demoing a game, grabbing an incredibly overpriced burger, or grabbing a quick one at the eternally fabulous Game Brewer booth, you will be reminded every second that this silly little hobby is replete with wonderful people, and Essen sticks them all under one roof. I don't play games at Essen. I spend every minute chatting and laughing and drinking in all the wonderful company. Go to Essen. The people are great. There are a few people that can truly be called legendary, that stand astride an art form, that consistently produce stellar work and remind us that great things can be produced by the vile little apes that we are. On top of that, Martin can chuck down 10 pints and you wouldn't know he'd had a drop. Never meet your heroes, they say. What a load of old tosh. I was fortunate a couple of years ago to be introduced to Martin at a do at Essen, and we've been close friends ever since. We're both very sardonic in a particularly British way, and both have an enthusiastic appreciation for the brewer's art. Martin was on particularly fine form this year. The wonderful thing about Martin is that he's had a lifetime in this industry, and be with him for long enough and he will regale you with anecdote after anecdote of his life in games. And what a life it's been! He is the true raconteur of the gaming world, and it's a pleasure to be with him. Martin is a symbol here, though, a general term for the kinds of people you can meet at Essen. If you think of almost any of the game makers you admire, those people who improve your life with their wonderful ideas, you will find them at Essen, and you can meet them. You can have a chat with Bruno Catala and grab a sandwich with Ian O'Toole. You can talk mechanisms with Mac Gertz and stop off at the wonderful Game Brewer booth and have a pint with Tony Boydell. If you're really lucky, you can meet the titan of the German game industry, Uli Blennerman. Just don't look him directly in the eye. He really hates that. I fell hard when I fell for this hobby. It wasn't just the games, but the whole wonderful lifestyle of gaming. I especially wanted to go to conventions and meet other gamers. When I would watch videos, I would hear one word that intrigued me. That word was Essen. It was referred to in reverential tones. Then I realised that I lived in Germany, it wouldn't be too hard to go, and so I booked a hotel and I went. When I first entered those halls, I was struck by the sheer enormity of it. One thing really struck me then, and it strikes me every time I walk through those doors now, that this one show is the centre of this hobby. It is the beating heart, the fulcrum around which everything else revolves. This show really is breathtaking. The hugeness of the halls, the intricateness of the booths, the sheer preponderance of industry titans, the incredibly welcoming Game Brewer booth where you can imbibe wonderful Belgian beers. Everyone is here, from the little Iranian publishers to huge companies cramming tens of thousands of people into their booth to buy cards with Mickey Mouse on them. The sheer atmosphere of the halls tells you that there is something special here. This is a gluttonous celebration of games, a reverie of the ludological. We all want to be part of something, and many of us have cleaved ourselves to the world of games for the pleasure they bring, and Essen is a real-world representation of that. Just the way people are here reminds you that you're at the centre of this hobby. It reminds you that these things are art and that they are important. I feel so energised when I get back from Essen. It is everything I want from a celebration of games, and it truly feels special to be at the centre of something, and to be at the centre of it every year. So I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but Essen has games too. Not just the incredibly inviting Game Brewer booth selling excellent Belgian beers. There are loads of games here, and although I don't play them when I'm at the convention, I get enough to last me for the rest of the year. This year real life has stepped in, and I've hardly played any of my Essen games yet, but I can't wait to dig in. The one game I have played is Virtual Revolution, a nasty area control game set in a cyberpunk Paris. It's vicious but incredibly satisfying and left me loads of warm serotonin feelings after playing it. There'll be a review up soon. So I want to use this section to go over some of the games I'm looking forward to playing over the next couple of weeks. The top of my list is Evacuation. This was my top heavy Euro pick of Essen, and I'm ecstatic that I managed to snag a copy. Vladimir Suchy is such a clever designer, and I'm sure this one will be great. Then there's Sunrise Lane from Rainer Knizia. He's such a master, and Horrible Guild do wonderful productions. Dracula vs Van Helsing is a little asymmetrical two-player game that, if it plays as well as it looks, is going to be brilliant. Then Match of the Century by Paolo Mori. There is no way that this one isn't brilliant. Also, there's Amygdala and Run and Halloween that all look great. I don't play games at Essen, I'm too busy being gregarious. But it is the time of the year that I truly become a gamer, and I can't wait to play these games. Christ, Essen is brilliant. You should definitely go if you get the chance. Thank you so much for watching, and sorry for the delay in videos. What with being sick and having to actually work, it's been a time. But I'm going to put up weekly videos for at least the rest of the year. If you enjoy this stuff, you can subscribe and thumb and all of that great stuff. And if you really like it and want to help these videos get made, then you can join the Patreon and also the Discord. Also, great merch from sirmeeple.com. All the links are below. Now, I can't hang around talking to you lot. I've got games to be played. Insert catchphrase here.